the meditation, one line she said is, we need to shine light in the darkest places. And for sure, it's not only in North Korea. There's dark corners all over our planet right now. People in fear. We're so blessed. Last week, Independence Day, the birth of our country, the 241st birthday of the United States, and what we stand for and who we are. And whether we're not going to get into the politics of any of this, even North Korea, but we can get to the heart of it. And the heart is we are all one. And until everyone is free, we're all still in prison. So I'd like to just take a moment and if you'll join me in closing your eyes and just breathing in the love and the power that we have co-created here this morning. For this light we share, this love we feel, is the power that can bring our world of darkness into light. Allow yourself to breathe deeply into your heart, allowing yourself to be free, knowing that the truth of who you are is changeless, formless, and eternal. This is your power. This is everyone's power. We allow ourselves to send our love to this young lady and all of those she spoke about. And we join heart to heart. We send compassion, we send love, we send peace. May we be not tempted to judge or attack or defend, but rather become aware and use our greatest strength to heal the world. And that strength is love. Love transforms war into peace, hatred into love, sadness into joy. In our world, our brothers and sisters, even those who are playing dark roles, need and deserve this gift. Take a moment to be still and envision our Mother Earth awakening to her rebirth of love. Spirit, Mother, Father, God, may we heal the hatred in our own minds. May we forgive those who we still hold grievances towards. We ask that you guide us, lead us, and direct us, so that we may be of greater service to our world and to our global family. We place our future in your hands. We ask for the courage and the wisdom to follow your lead. And so it is. Okay, so it's a lot of. I was reading on Facebook, and I'm not really that much into astrology and this and that, but I appreciate it, and I know that there's great merit in it, and so by no means am I poo-pooing it. But I do, just what I read last night from several people, is that that the way that the stars and the planets are aligned right now are very powerful. And, maybe you're feeling it, maybe you're not, I don't know. But anyway, it's a time that we really have to be mindful, because our thoughts are things, our feelings are things. And what we're putting out there moment by moment by moment is really having an effect that we don't even know about. And it goes beyond this world. I believe it goes to all the universes. Every thought, every feeling that we have. We are powerful beyond measure. More than we ever know. But we've been sold a bill of goods thinking that there's something actually out here that is going to do it for us. That's going to give us more power and more strength and more whatever we think we're looking for. But it's not out there anymore. We are beginning to find that. I think that's why we're here. That's why we come together on Sundays, to remind each other and to remember who we are in truth. And, a couple of weeks ago, I wasn't able to make it, but I know we had a film night here, Unacknowledged, which was the Stephen Greer film, all about disclosure of the extraterrestrials and how the industrial complex is really taken over our minds if we allow it to. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I mean, it's just, to me, as A Course in Miracles says, it's all about idols. And idols, we all know the story of the golden calf. But idols are really anything that we put before God. And so it's really about making sure that God and love are first in our life, and that's what we're led by and driven by. We all get caught up. You're thinking that there's actually something out there that can do it for us. And sometimes we have to get kicked in the gut many, many times before we realize it. It's like, oh, well, that didn't work, I'll try this. And then that doesn't work, and I'll try this. And it's just a futile effort that never gives us what we think we're looking for. We have everything we need, but it's not outside of ourselves. Not to say it's not fun and great to accomplish things and have success in our life. I think that's part of our experience here as human beings on planet Earth. That's a good thing. But if we do it, I go back to one of my favorite scriptures, and it's just seek ye first the kingdom of God, and let all else be bestowed upon us from there. So seek first love. And so what we're really here to do is to live in this world, but be awake, be self-realized. And by that, even the tragedy that this young girl spoke of a minute ago, knowing that there is a bigger plan at work, knowing that even though this gal and so many millions of people have been through suffering that we can't even begin to imagine, that there is a light that can overcome all of this. And if we tune into that, there have been beings who've walked this earth. Mandela, there's been Anne Frank, many others who have been in the midst of horrific conditions who have been able to overcome it. So it's like they say in certain rooms, you don't have to wait till you get to the bottom floor to get off the elevator. We can just make that step into love any moment, any time. So, it's last week was my first week back after my mother's passing. And the past 7 months have not been 7 months I choose to repeat in this lifetime. Terry passed, as you know, in November, my father in December, and then my mother. So needless to say, there's a lot that goes with that. And but with that, the butterfly, knowing that there's no distance in spirit between us and anyone or anything. And I do find great comfort in that. Sure, I miss the form and the ability to pick up the phone and have Terry run in there and make some jokes with me or talk about this or that or call in my mom or dad. But that part of it may be gone, but the love we carry, the love we shared here, all of us, is eternal. And that's what is going to get us through all of these challenges that we face today. Well, I read this because it's just so appropriate to support the message I'm choosing to share today, and it's the last words of Steve Jobs. And, I don't think there's been a more, think about what the man has created. How many of us have this little thing and this little thing? And this man was a genius. He literally was a genius. And, he had all the money that you could ever, there's no way he could have spent all his money. He had all the stuff, and yet he died a very early death, and it was a painful death. And I want to share these few paragraphs with you. And he says, I have come to the pinnacle of success in business. In the eyes of others, my life has been the symbol of success. However, apart from work, I have little joy. Finally, my wealth is simply a fact to which I am accustomed. At this time, lying in the hospital bed and remembering all of my life, I realize all the accolades and riches of which I was once so proud have become insignificant with my imminent death. In the dark, when I look at green lights of the equipment for artificial respiration and feel the buzz of their mechanical sounds, I can feel the breath of my approaching death looming over me. Only now do I understand that once you accumulate enough money for the rest of your life, you have to pursue objectives that are not related to wealth. It should be something far more important. For example, stories of love, art, dreams of your childhood. No, stop pursuing wealth. It can only make a person into a twisted being just like me. God has made us one way. We can feel the love in the heart of each of us, and not illusions built by fame or money like I made my life. I can't take them with me. I can only take with me the memories that were strengthened by love. This is the true wealth that will follow you, will accompany you. He will give you strength and light to go ahead. Love can travel thousands of miles, and so life has no limits. Move to where you want to go. Strive to reach the goals you want to achieve. Everything is in your heart and in your hands. What is the world's most expensive bed? The hospital bed. If you have money, you can hire someone to drive your car, but you cannot hire someone to take your illness that is killing you. Material things lost can be found, but one thing you can never find when you lose: life. Whatever stage of life where we are right now, at the end we will have to face the day when the curtain falls. Please treasure your family love for your spouse, and love for your friends. Treat everyone well and stay friendly with your neighbors. And I think that, here's someone who accomplished all of it, and it took what it took to get his attention. And I don't know if you all realize this, but Steve was a huge follower of Paramahansa Yogananda. And at his funeral, there were thousands and thousands of people. They had it on these mega TVs, outside the church or I don't know if it was a church. But every person there, they handed out that book to. And so he did have that deep insight, deep reflective aspect of who he was, but yet he let the other stuff come before that. And I think that that's a message he speaks to us from the other side is, is, yes, it's okay to have goals and do these things, but don't forget about the love, the small things, the beautiful things. And it's up to us. We're the only ones who can do that, make that choice. Our time is, we don't know. We could be here 1 minute and not the next. I've seen that firsthand. We all have. And so it's important. Keep your conscience clear. Forgive. You want to be as clean and clear in your heart and mind as you can possibly be. Where are you still holding any grievances or judgments? Where are you not treating yourself as well as maybe you could be? How could you be more loving? A quote from Yogananda says, "God has no respect for history. Man's limited and erroneous measuring conceptions of time and space, for he can produce any past thing, object, or event instantaneous in his ever-present dream consciousness. Likewise, in a second, he can dissolve this world and its beings and the entire cosmos, and then bring them back at will, just as they were. All he has to do is stop dreaming this world and it ceases to be. Or he can dream it back again by materializing it in his consciousness." I find that, we hear about this world being a dream. And, the dream to me is really thinking that I'm dreaming or believing that it's possible to be something other than what I am in truth. I am an eternal being of light, and so is each and every man, woman, and child. Every plant, every animal, every rock, everything is light. And yet we're dreaming all these scenarios that keep us distracted and keep us from tuning in to the truth of who we are. That's how we wake up. That's how we make our time here on earth valuable and meaningful, is to live, as Yogananda talked about, being self-realized. Self-realized is being awake, knowing that I'm in the world, I'm not of the world. Only my judgment, my attachment to form or the dream can upset me. If I truly knew who I was as a spiritual being, as a being of light, I could walk in this world and bombs could be going all around me and I could be at peace. And that's mastery. Well, there's a quote here that, where is it here? Oh, okay. Gary Renard, I know some of you guys know him from his book, the most popular one being The Disappearance of the Universe. And anyway, he's a character. He spoke here a few years ago. He's a really great guy. He's got some radical views on life. He's definitely a follower of A Course in Miracles. And one thing I've learned, if you're a spiritual leader in any way, shape, or form, be safe and don't mention politics on Facebook, okay? You'll never win. You can come from the most holy, sacred, spiritual place and someone's gonna find fault and judge you for it. So and what's that doing? That's perpetuating the angst and the judgment. And so I've learned that lesson many, many times. So you don't see too many quotes, even though I've been tempted. So anyway, Gary had posted a post about Obama and about the prejudice he felt towards Obama, because he thought most people could tell it was talking about prejudice instead of denying it. So then he was talking about this prejudice so we could look at the prejudice in our own hearts and forgive it. That's really his whole function and purpose of this post he made. So it says many people took that personal and many became argumentative, and he deleted it. He said, so I deleted the post because it was not received in the intention or the spirit that it was posted in. And so anyway, it says that the Course talks about the hero, Course in Miracles, about the hero of the dream. It says, for you would not react at all to figures in a dream you knew that you were dreaming. Let them be as hateful and as vicious as they may. They could have no effect on you unless you fail to recognize it is your dream. And so it's really about us understanding that Yes, there's stuff going on, and it's painful, and not to deny that, but rather go into our hearts and forgive. Don't feed it with judgment and anger, but rather feed it with love. Do we take action? You know, a lot of people feel like that some of this actually says, well, then if all I have to do, I don't really have to do anything, do I? Not necessarily. For example, this interfaith assistance ministry is one way that we're reaching out to the community, and we're able to share our bounty, our good fortune with those who, as the Course in Miracles says, those of us that seem to temporarily have more can give to those who seem to temporarily have less. Mm-hmm. And so we're here to, you know, not to make them victims, but just give from our hearts and in service, knowing that, you know, we want everybody to thrive and be happy. And we do have this potential to be self-realized. I know that to be the truth. There have been, I'm sure there's masters that walk this planet today. I'm sure that we've probably met them and don't even have a clue who they are. And I like this little statement here, and it's from Ernest Holmes. And it says, however, if somebody ever walked the streets of Los Angeles knowing what Jesus knew about himself, the paralyzed people would get up and follow him gladly. If anyone knows anything about the light that is at the center of his being, it will light the pathway of everybody he touches. If anyone knows anything about the love that is all-embracing, his arms will be around everyone in the world. It is all nonsense to say God is love unless our arms are around people. It is nonsense to say God is peace unless there's peace in our own consciousness that brings calm to everything. It's nonsense to say God is giving unless our hands are open that fade the scatter of the four winds of heaven to the last atom of good we've ever received. It's nonsense to say the universe holds us in its loving embrace while we dislike one single soul. As Emerson said, it writes thou fool on the forehead of a king. And, you know, it's the power that is going to bring us from the dream to heaven. The happy dream is this power that I speak of. But know that we are, anytime we're holding a judgment towards ourselves or another, or angry or upset, that we're feeding the illusion of fear rather than supporting the awakening to love. So last night I was up late, and usually two things we go to bed with is one is either Coast to Coast, George Norrie, or Gaia TV. Well, George Norrie, nothing really looked so good last night, so I watched something on Gaia TV, and there was, I can't remember the fellow's name, but he was really interesting. And he was he was a study of ancient civilizations and the Hopis, and great, he had a lot of wisdom. But then he brought the Course in Miracles into it, which really, again, is to me a very unifying teaching. And it does encompass and embrace the totality of love. And what he said is, you know, regardless, is, you know, the Hopis, I thought that was interesting because when they found their land, when they chose their land, they've been around for thousands of years, they chose land where there was no water. And Regina Meredith, who was interviewing, said, well, why would they do that? And the answer was because that was a test of their faith, because they chose to be where there was no water. So they had to really depend on the power of spirit to support and sustain them, which thousands of years later, they were probably one of the most evolved spiritual civilizations on the planet. And, you know, we've gotten so comfy and cushy here, you know, want a drink of water, there it is right there. Plumbing is in here, and I'm not complaining, I love it. You know, but I also use this as a means of saying, okay, well, what if? And, you know, what if I was a Hopi? Well, I'd be forced to leave, or I'd be forced to go deeper than maybe I've ever gone before. So we all have our desert, and it's about knowing that regardless of what it seems like, how dark it is, we can overcome it. But we have to know that we're invulnerable, that there's nothing in this dream that can hurt us, harm us, or affect us in any way, shape, or form. My soul is totally free. We have to overcome the fear of death. We're so afraid to die that we forget to live. We just get caught up in, pharmaceuticals are a good example of that. Where you watch TV and there's like a zillion commercials selling you every reason that you need to buy something because there's something wrong with you. And if there's not yet, there's something that will go wrong with you. It's insane. And then they try and sell you these pills, and then they give you a 10-minute, if you take this pill, you'll die anyway, but you won't die of what was hurting you. So, it's so interesting when you see the game that we're playing here, again, without judgment or blame or attack, it's just something to be aware of, and that we have another choice, and that we are invulnerable. We have to really live our life, this whole new paradigm, this new paradigm living is living without agendas. Totally cleaning our stuff up and placing our future in the hands of Spirit or God, and just being led by that, and not being attached to the outcome. And that takes a lot of faith too, but I guarantee it's way, way, way better than anything we could ever dreamed up ourselves. But yet we're so attached that we're afraid to go there. So little by little, as we lift that veil, it gets easier and easier. And of course, the last thing he said is to respect one another. And I think that that's so important. I think in the global political movement right now, we've lost respect for one another. And just because I respect someone doesn't mean I have to agree with them or like what they're doing. It just means I give them the dignity of knowing that they are a valuable being and they're playing their role. Now, one thing we've probably heard before, maybe not, is, and this sort of makes sense. You look at a dictator family like in North Korea. You look at someone like Hitler. Those people, we think we know what's good for all of us, but sometimes the people that are playing the darkest roles on the planet, killing and torturing and millions of people, they have signed a soul contract and they're playing a dark role for all of us to awaken, to make us stronger, to bring us together. And that's a big one for us to accept sometimes, because all we want to do is go bombing, Let's just make some more nuclear bombs and throw them down on them. But when you realize that maybe they're evolved beings who are saying, okay, that's a tough role, no one wants it, and you know what, I'll go in and I'll play that role this lifetime. So it sort of changes the game a little bit and how we see it. Now, this is so true. I know Greg Braden, he was here a few months ago. Oh, love Greg and his teachings, and he talks about the Darwin theory, and we've all heard about that theory of evolution and survival of the fittest, and that's been our goal. We'll just be whoever's stronger wins and more fit. Well, that's not working anymore, if you haven't noticed. And this statement here, which supports what Greg says, it says that really it's not survival of the fittest, but rather the people who will thrive are those who are adaptable to change. So in other words, regardless of what's going on, we'd like to sit here and, we've created this little bubble of, the relationship and the house and we've got our retirement income and our insurance, we got all our ducks in a row, and then what happens now? So, lots of people are being shook up in big ways. I think we can all relate to that. So if you want to thrive and survive in this world, then it's about us being very adaptable to change. And of course, I think in closing, the most important thing that we can do, and we're doing it right here, right now, is communities, small community groups. Not that there's anything wrong by any means with a huge mega spiritual environment. It's a good thing. They're all good. But the small communities, the small groups where you can have an eye out for each other and a love for each other and a compassion for each other, conversations with each other, really a family, that is the key to our awakening and survival and thriving in what the world's offering us to heal from and overcome right now. And of course, it's I grew up in Huntington, West Virginia, and I experienced a tragedy of really when I was 9 years old, that in our community, the Marshall football team, Marshall University, and all the boosters and fans, many of which were my friends' parents, they were all killed in a plane crash on the way back from East Carolina from a football game. So there was a huge loss for our community. And one thing that Marshall, and all, at all the football games, the cheerleaders, it was always after this. And it's actually become, I notice it's everywhere now, but and the movie, if you saw We Are Marshall, they would say, "We are Marshall." And, it was just really like, they rose from the ashes, went from a no football team to becoming national champions. And, that was done with a small community on the Ohio River coming together to say, no, this tragedy, we're going to use this to make us stronger. And the bond of our community, really the hub of the community in Huntington, West Virginia, is the university. And it's strengthened every person in Huntington, West Virginia because of that tragedy. So instead of We Are Marshall, we are Namaste. And I really want you to take that into your heart and know that, we are powerful beyond measure. And to live from that place and that knowing, to take this little girl into your heart that I shared earlier and know that we can really make a difference. This is a big time on our planet right now. I think that we're not going to have an easy ride, maybe. I'd like to say we would, but if we don't, it's going to be okay. We are okay because we have each other and we have resilience and we are love. And so it is. Namaste. Namaste.